in 1994. It's not unheard of. 1-866-505-4626. We'll be back here at Westwood One. This is the Jimbo Hannon Show, and we're talking tonight with John Dennis. He is battling for the Republican nomination in California's 8th Congressional District. That's Nancy Pelosi's district, heavily Democratic district. Barack Obama carried it in 08 with 85% of the vote. But as we noted before, there have been such upsets in the past. It's not unheard of. And I would note something that was used, by the way, against Dick Gephardt a few years ago that you might want to think about. Now, the gentleman in question did not win, but he held Gephardt to one of his lower vote totals ever. And he had signs put throughout Missouri's 3rd Congressional District that read as follows: upset with Congress? Gephardt is Congress. Vote Gary Gill. That was it. 9 words. And as I say, it seemed to be pretty effective. Just a thought. I'll give you that as a freebie.
I'll take it.
All right, fair enough. There's another thing to consider as well, too. A few years ago in Maryland, Democrats had a hard time. This was back in the days when Republicans were not only competitive in Maryland but actually won some races. There was a very popular U.S. Senator, Charles Mack Mathias, a U.S. Senator, and the Democrats had trouble recruiting a credible candidate to run against Mack Mathias. So they found this obscure Baltimore City councilwoman by the name of Barbara Mikulski, who just went out and tore up the state of Maryland, most of which had never heard of her, but they knew who she was by the time it was all over with. Great campaigner. She didn't win, but she probably, I guess, held Mathias to one of his lowest vote totals ever, and suddenly Barbara Mikulski was a name. Well, she later became a congresswoman from Baltimore and is now holding a U.S. Senate seat from that state. I'm wondering if you were to run a competitive race, and let's face it, if you got 25% of the vote, that would be considered pretty darn good. Are there other offices that you might think of using that as a stepping stone to?
You know, I just haven't thought about that. I don't think that far in advance. I'm just trying to run a campaign to get to Nancy Pelosi and then do what I can there. And I just want to remind people too that in Washington State, of course, Tom Foley, who was the Speaker of the House,
yes,
was also upset and was looking for work at the end of that election cycle. So.
Yeah, that was a strange night for Dick Gephardt because, of course, early in the he had hopes as Foley went down that he might become the next speaker, and it turns out that in fact he did become the leader of the Democrats, but it was as the minority leader. So, but for a few hours there, he thought he was going to be the speaker. But you're right; it can happen. Certainly, it's not unheard of that such a thing can happen.
And Jim, this is our generation's call. I mean, this situation is, as I mentioned before, unsustainable, and I think that wars, of course, can threaten republics, but finances can threaten republics as well. And I'm afraid that if we don't do something and do it rather soon, that the republic that we all love and cherish is facing dire consequences. So. It's our clarion call time. We have to step up and do the fight. So this is the only election to me that matters at the moment.
Tom Daschle, another person who was a party leader in Congress who wound up losing an election, although from a jurisdiction that was much more prone to bipartisan voting than the 8th Congressional District of California. Has Nancy Pelosi paid the least bit of attention to you that you know of? Have the words John Dennis ever come from her mouth?
Not that I know of, and I'm not particularly concerned about that. I'm concerned about her knowing about me to the extent that it helps me defeat her. If I never meet the woman, that'll be fine by me as long as I'm holding the seat from California's 8th Congressional District in November. So we're in January of next year, I should say.
My assumption is that it would be helpful to you to not only have debates, but to win them convincingly. I mean, you need a lot of things to break your way, and that would have to be one of them.
Sure, but I got to tell you something. I'm the son of a longshoreman from a housing project in Jersey City. My life has been full of long shots, so I might be the perfect candidate for this race.
Fair enough. More to come. Stay with us. And again, the website, JohnDennis2010.com. Pelosi.com. He's serious about this, and it's worth noting that there have been others in the past who were serious, and the rest of us gave them little chance, and sometimes they won. More often they did not, but sometimes they did. We'll be right back. This is the Jimbo Hannon Show. We're talking with John Dennis. He's running for the Republican nomination for the 8th Congressional District in California, Nancy Pelosi's district, no less. I understand you've been endorsed by Ron Paul, for whom you have worked in previous presidential efforts. Is that right?
I have been, yes.
What did he have to say about you?
Oh, all sorts of nice things about how I'm also a defender of individual liberty and what we need in Washington. So I'm very proud of that endorsement. Ron Paul is the example of what a congressman should be. He's a gentleman who takes the Constitution literally, sees it as the contract that we have with one another, that we have with the federal government, and he's voted in very often lonely ways to fight that fight. So for me, he's a giant in Washington, D.C., and I think and I'm proud to have that endorsement.
Have you thought about just running as a libertarian? Ron, of course, has run for president as both a libertarian and as a Republican at various times. He's run, of course, for Congress as a Republican successfully, but he is a libertarian through and through. Have you thought about, since you seem to be a man of principle, have you thought about running as a libertarian? In that district, you'd do about as well.
Oh, no. First of all, I'm a Republican. I've been a Republican for 25 years. I'm firmly entrenched in the liberty wing of the party, which includes, amongst others, Robert Taft and Barry Goldwater, Ronald Reagan, Milton Friedman, and, of course, Ron Paul. And, as a practical matter, the Republican Party is one of the two players in the game, and there's no getting around that. And not to mention the fact I'm not libertarian enough for the libertarians. I have, conservative positions on immigration, and that doesn't go over terribly well in the Libertarian Party.
If you win, do you believe in term limits?
It's in a matter of principle, yes, I do, except it depends on how they're enforced. We have term limits in California.
But only for local offices. The federal term limits were thrown out some time ago.
But how are we doing with term limits here? It doesn't seem to have made much of an impact on the state of California, which is is in crisis mode right now. So in principle, yes, but it has to be done the right way so that the people actually become they're business people, they're citizen politicians for a very short period of time, and then go home, and that's it, as opposed to getting bounced around from job to job.
Have you thought about moving to someplace like Orange County or San Diego, where you've got a real fighting shot?
I love living in San Francisco. Have you been here?
Of course.
Spent any time here? It's a great place to live.
It's a beautiful city. I will confess that I agree with Mark Twain that the coldest winter he ever spent was one summer in San Francisco, but...
Well, I have to tell you something, Jim. We get this reputation here that it's this libertine central, but the truth of the matter is that San Franciscans wake up every day. They go to work. They take their kids to school. They pick them up from school. They spend time with their families. They live very conservative lifestyles, and as a result, you'll even see in last year in the special election, we had a vote on a tax increase. It was Proposition 1A, and San Francisco voted against it 58%. So we may have actually seen the limits of the growth of government when San Francisco's voted against a tax increase. And I think that this sort of newfound fiscal conservatism is going to also play very well in my bid here.
How do you differ from Dana Walsh in your Republican primary battle?
Well, Dana,
Is it pronounced Dana? It's spelled Dana.
Yeah, she pronounces it Dana. Well, look, I've received the endorsement of every single person who can endorse on the executive committee of the Central Committee. Received an overwhelming number of endorsements from the Central Committee. All the Republican leaders have endorsed me. Every single PAC, every single independent organization that's looked at both of us has endorsed me. In fact, she has not received one single endorsement because they know that we're going to run a campaign that can win. And the libertarian positions that I have, instead of driving people away, they're going to I'll be able to find common ground with people who I don't have a lot in common with. And so they see that, and they see the caliber of the campaign that we're running. So,
well, good luck to you. Stay on the line. We will speak off air.
Terrific.
All right. That's the man right there. He is John Dennis, and his website, a very popular website, he says, is JohnDennis2010.com. JohnDennis2010.com. We will see. The names Tom Foley and Tom Daschle do come quickly to mind in that regard. It's not impossible. Just daunting odds there to beat Nancy Pelosi this November. I'm Jim Bohannon. We've got more to come on The Bohannon Show here at Westwood One.